All right, I'll just give a very quick overview. First of all, thank you all for being here. This is typically a night in which we travel out to our partner schools and give a little presentation. Typically at Central, I know they add us to their 8th grade graduation night, and at Prairie View Grissom, we usually hop on to another night for their 8th grade families, but we don't have that luxury this year, unfortunately. So it is a little too bad, but at least we have the opportunity to kind of give you a little bit of an oversight about the process. So there's going to be some things that we're going to go over. If you got the message from earlier today, and for the folks from Central, I apologize. It's the first you might have heard of this meeting. I got a few of those today. Sincerely apologize. I think with all of the changes that were under the information communication systems need to catch up, and we got notes to work on that tomorrow when we get back to the office, so I apologize. But I'm glad you're here if you're from Central. I'm glad you're here if you're from anywhere, frankly, and you're sending your kids to Andrew, because we love having them. But we'll get going here. I'm going to ask Mr. Dalton to kind of go over the question portions. Just so you know, we got about a 30-minute-ish couple slides we want to share with you, just framing out the process, and then we're going to stick around as long as we need to answer questions. But Mr. Dalton, you want to kind of go over how they could go out doing that process?
Yes, well, welcome. Like Mr. Dalton said, my name is Tim Dalton, the Assistant Principal for Activities and Facilities. For tonight, I'll help with the moderation of this. As people come in, I'll admit them in. And what we're going to, as Mr. Nolting said, or Dr. Nolting, I should say now, Dr. Nolting mentioned, we have a presentation. If at any point you have any questions during that time, or if you have questions that, hey, this is what I want to make sure it gets answered tonight, please put them in the chat. During the presentation, we will keep them all off to the side, and then we will make sure at the end we get to all of them. And then even if it's going in at the end, hey, someone else asked a question that prompts another question, we will definitely have time at the end to get through that. So during the presentation, if you can use the chat, and then afterwards, using the chat would be great also. And as you can tell, we do have everyone muted for now, and the video off. If you want to turn your video on, please feel free, but we do ask to keep muted at this point in time, just for the consistency of the presentation. We are recording this presentation, just so you know, just in case there's families that could not make either night, and we want to be able to put that up on the website so that people can have a way to get the same information. Thanks a lot, and once again, welcome.
All right, again, we're really glad to see you here virtually, I guess, but we don't have we're going to have a lot of things to share with you, and we may not have every answer to every question that you may have, but we'll find it, and we'll make sure we get back to you. One of the things we're going to highlight tonight is the importance of being open and available to your questions and your thoughts. We understand, even though you might have more than one kid, this is your first time to get that one kid ready for their 8th grade, well, their freshman year experience. So it's important, and we want to make sure that every question goes answered. So Tim introduced himself, Mr. Dalton introduced himself and what his role is. Some of you might recognize him from his former life as a math and business division chair, but he's in a new role with us this year. And you could also see Ms. Abir Othman. She is our Associate Principal of Instruction, so she's here tonight. Mr. Brian Nolan, he's our 3rd Assistant Associate Principal. He is not here tonight, unfortunately, but he sends his best and hopes to be able to meet you all very soon. So, like I said, we got about a 25-minute from now presentation, and then we'll have questions and answers. So we'll go through some key things about realistically the transition process and how we want you to think about going about the process. So the first one is really just an analogy. Now, you're also, the people that are presenting to you tonight are also experienced parents. So we're talking to you as school administrators, but we're also talking to you as moms and dads. And some of us have gone through this experience recently and are preparing to do it again in the near future. So the real importance of right now for you and your son or daughter when it comes to their 8th grade experience in October of their 8th grade year. It's very similar to what we're talking about with our younger high school students and what they need to think about in life after high school. What we're asking you to think about doing with your kids right at this point in time. So we don't need you to come game ready for signing up for classes tonight. We don't even think that's a great idea. What we do want you to start talking about are the kitchen table conversations. Now, in the last couple of years, when I've given the analogy of the kitchen table, I always joked about the fact that we all know nobody has time to eat dinner together and sit at the kitchen table, but unfortunately or fortunately, now we have nothing but time to sit at the kitchen table and eat. So you're going to have plenty of opportunities to shoot these questions at your son or daughter. But the three big things we really want you to probe as a parent and have the kid kind of self-actualize about is three things that we value or three things that we hope. One is the value of exploration. So Andrew High School is a comprehensive high school. We have hundreds and hundreds of classes. We have dozens and dozens of clubs and activities and competitive academic programs, theater, you name it, we got it, sports, etc. Exploration is hugely important for our kids, and we want them to be able to take advantage. Now, the problem I've always tried to navigate is we have so many things to offer, but it's a hard thing to navigate because there is a schedule that we have to make sure. We can't have kids taking 12 classes a semester. Kids can't do 75 different activities. We get that. And that's where some of the communication I'll talk about comes in play. But please know that we value the fact that kids are here to explore. They're here to play around. They're here to test out some things that they may like, and maybe walk away from things that they find out they don't like. Sometimes that's the best way to explore is to try things that you don't like, and then you validate that you don't like them too. So exploration is huge. As you go through this process with your son or daughter and you look at the course schedule guide and you talk about the co-curricular programs and talk about things that they may want to explore, things that maybe they don't have the opportunity to be exposed to in a middle school environment. The second thing is the value of challenge. So very close to being willing to explore and try new things and try things on for size is the value to challenge yourself. So what I always say to parents is we have a high expectation for kids to push themselves, but we also have put in a lot of supports that I know Ms. Hoffman will talk about in a moment, that we make sure that there's a soft landing for these kids if they do start to struggle with. This year has really challenged our system, so noting this year as an exception to the rule, we've had programs put into place to make sure that not only are we supporting our kids who might be struggling, that are at risk of not passing, et cetera, but we also support kids who are performing at a high level and may be challenged with that high level. One of the biggest things that I think 8th grade families, particularly those that this might be your oldest son or daughter, is we don't have an honors and academic program that are totally separate. So you could be an honors math kid and an academic social studies kid. You could be an honors English person, and then that might be your only honors class that you take. It's really about talent, interest, and ability, not about are you in or out. So keep that in mind. And as we go through the process that, again, Ms. Hoffman will talk about, pick out those places that you think you could push that kid or that kid thinks they could push themselves, and try to find that. What you'll find over time is a majority of our students take at least one honors classes before they graduate high school. And the reality is that's important because they get to try and emphasize what a very challenging curriculum might look like. And most of the kids impress themselves through the process. So challenge and exploration. And then the last thing is I always challenge this and I got a sophomore sitting in the next room, and I can't tell you even in the year and a half that's gone by quick and how we're starting to really talk about different stuff for life after high school. It's very similar to that experience for kids in terms of the 8th grade. So one eye on the future, one eye on the present. So we're always asking kids, and it even starts now, to say, what do you think you want to do when you get out and you're done with us? Eventually kids are going to be walking across the stage at Andrew High School and getting a diploma and getting a handshake, and maybe a knuckles or what have you. So they always want to keep an eye on what do you want to do when you embark upon that journey of life, right? And then the other thing is, what do you want to do right now? Now, freshman year is a little bit more about the what's in it for you right now. What do you want to do that freshman year, first semester, freshman year? But we always want to keep one eye on the future, knowing that future is going to evolve and change, and you're going to want to do something different tomorrow as that you thought you wanted to do yesterday. But always have it in mind. Always be flexible, but always have it in your mind's eye. the process. So this is going to look different this year, and we're going to ask you to be very patient with us as we're trying to redesign virtually every piece of this process that we're used to. So open house used to be one of our biggest, baddest events, if you will, and we're desperately trying to reorganize it to make it meaningful. So we plan actually within the next week to 2 weeks at max to communicate the details on this, but we're working on a modified on-site event for open house. It'll probably fall within the second or third week in November, but we're going to get you a lot more details. But the open house is really that exploration starting point. So the best we can to replicate that and give you an in-person, but also a remote opportunity at the same time. That's what we're trying to maximize. But that's really about how you find out about the elective programs, how you find out about co-curricular programs. That's really the exploration that we want to make sure we embrace. The PSAT, because of the volume of students and the testing restrictions and rules that we have to live by, we don't feel like we're able to have the PSAT test today. So if your kids are in the back of the room listening to me right now, they probably just celebrated, which I totally respect and understand. But that's going to lead to some questions that we're going to ask you to be a little bit patient with on how we're going to go about navigating the placement process for freshmen. So PSAT has traditionally been, or the test, whatever it was called at the time that kid took it. Recently, it's been PSAT. That's been one of the criteria. So we're going to have to figure that out, and we're in the process of figuring that out. But know this, that there's no reason to be overly stressed about your kids' freshman year course selection process, because we want to and we will work with you no matter if we have a PSAT or not. Step Up Day has been our student event, typically in January. They've come to the building during an academic school day. Obviously, we're going to be really TBD on this event. The volume of kids that would come to the building on top of the volume of kids already in the building. It's always been a stress day for us in terms of the number of bodies in the building. In this world, not being able to predict next week, let alone January, right now we're a little nervous about that particular experience, but keep it on the radar as TBD. The pre-registration meeting, I put adults only for that, and I mean that cleanly, but we're going to have a meeting for you to come and talk about the registration process. You typically get information like course placement recommendations. We'll talk about how you actually go about registering your students for school for next year. We're going to have that meeting. We're going to aim for it to be live, but again, it's January, hard to predict. So be a little patient on the format and the date. And then registration is the day that we typically have folks coming in and signing up. It's traditionally been a Saturday, and it's probably going to have to be live to some extent. But again, we're going to ask for some patience in how we design that event, because it's it's hard to predict where we're going to be, and we're working through that now. But plan on those two events, number 4 and number 5 on your screen, to take place in January to early February. Format TBD. So at this point in time, I'm privileged to hand it over to Ms. Othman, who will talk about some good stuff.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So regarding our placement and course selection, it looks a little bit different this year, as Dr. Nolting described, without the PSAT, but we work and collaborate with strong relationships with our 8th grade partners. So we work diligently with them to make sure that we rely heavily on that teacher recommendation piece. We discuss the courses and levels with them. They know our academic, our honors, and also our AP, and the level in which the knowledge that comes with these recommendations. So rest assured that we'll definitely have that solidified, and the process will be very clean for students and streamlined. This is my 11th year as an AP at Andrew High School, so I've definitely seen the 8th grade process numerous times myself, living through it as a parent also. And our 8th grade teacher recommendations are invaluable, and they've always been the biggest part of the placement process. So over the years, they've been spot on in the sense that if parents would like to make a change based on what they see the end result of that recommendation, we always work with our parents on that. If you know that your child gets a recommendation is determined, as Dr. Nolting described, and one honors, another academic, or all honors, or academic, and you would like to see them, pursue maybe an opposite of what was recommended, we definitely work through that info with you. And I'm going to walk you through the pre-registration process to see what that looks like. We have an opportunity where you get to see where your students are placed. We usually have a week time frame for you, and that's that great kitchen table conversation that Dr. Nolting brought up earlier, where you get the opportunity to discuss with your child, with your student, about where they were recommended for placement. And it also affords you the opportunity to talk to our division chairs if needed, so that your son or daughter, let's say they feel they would like to change a science or English, they're afforded that opportunity. On registration day, and that's going to be on February 6th right now is where we have it on our calendar. Registration day, the acronym that the guidance folks like to use is called MAPLES, and that's these are the classes that freshmen will need to take for next year. MAPLES, math, the M for math, A, advisory, and I'll talk about that a little bit. Everyone gets an advisory. P is PE. L is lunch, and everyone, students get a lunch, obviously. E is English, and then S in science. And then that leaves typically 2 spots, and that's 2 periods for world languages or facts or technology and education courses or business. So those are electives that the students can select. And that's that kitchen conversation where you can talk about it and decide amongst yourselves what are the areas, what are the electives. And again, we will have counselors on site with that registration day, and I'll explain that in a little bit. If you would like to look at this a little bit further for the course listing, our Andrew website has a resource link called Course Selection Guide for Freshmen. Feel free to go in there. Again, Andrew website, resource link, Course Selection Guide for Freshmen. That would be another opportunity to help you take a look. This is not till February 6th that we need to sit down with a counselor and request these classes. And then in the summertime, we will provide the schedule for the students so they'll get to see what courses they're in. That's the time when students are usually texting and contacting each other. Who'd you get? What class? What period? When's your lunch? And we usually release those in the summer. So the days leading up to February 6th are pretty important. The pre-registration info may look different this year, so it's beneficial to look out for that, depending on what that looks like. If your student goes to Grissom, Prairie View, or Central Middle School, your student's information will be in our student information system. We pull that automatically. We will have that. We do a lot of collaboration, as I mentioned, and we'll have that info. If your child is in a private school, we reach out to them, we connect to them. You're also welcome to email us. Dr. Kaufman, our social studies division chair, has reached out to them already to say we would like to make sure that we have your contact info, so that you get the information that we're emailing and sending to all the families. So definitely want to make sure everyone's included here. And in our student system, we already have automatically the 8th grade information, just so you know, or if you're wondering, how do you access that? If you have any questions about the registration process, I'll stay around after our presentation. I know that Mr. Dalton said if you have questions, feel free to put in the chat. We'll be happy to answer those questions for you. Again, we try to chronological, it's like a timeline for you so that you are able to see the steps moving forward with this process. A lot of support along the way. There will be plenty of communication from us. So I don't want you to feel like February 6th is just going to show up and you're expected to know what to do for first-time high school parents. We'll definitely walk you through the process with our communication. And speaking of supports, next I wanted to talk to you about finding supports at Andrew High School. Again, our first-time parents are going to be pleasantly surprised by the information that we have here. We have supports, whether it be on the social emotional side or the academic side. We have guidance counselors. Every student is assigned a guidance counselor, and they become, if you will, like a tour guide for their academic experience here at school, meaning that right away from the onset, they work with our 8th graders to make sure they understand the registration process. And then moving forward, all 4 years, there's a guidance curriculum that they follow and we implement. We have 2 social workers for students that might want to connect with a social worker or need additional emotional support. Our students that are served with IEPs also have case managers and social workers. Cheryl Russell, our division chair for special services, works heavily in the sense of partnership with all our partner programs to make sure that the IEPs are up to date and met before the students even arrive here at Andrew High School. We have 4 deans, and they're really good people, and they're kind, and although deans usually don't get a positive rap from most folks, we look at our deans as more of a supportive lens. Dr. Nolting is laughing at me because I was a previous dean in my earlier life, so I always try to say that we are nice people. And what happens with the dean's office is their role is to be more of a supportive guide. You know, they help out in addition to working with students with the busing, transportation, helping students, you know, navigate school as well. We also have a very important position in our building, our full-time nurse, Ms. Shiley, who, given, of course, the dynamic of everything going on, we lean heavily on her. Great support. And right now we also have a part-time assistant nurse who is helping as well. So those are the student services support team. From the academic side, we also have support services. And I'm going to describe that a little bit with the academic support, starting with advisory. So our students receive 30 minutes, 4 times a week, of what we call T-Bowl time. On Mondays is advisory day, and that on Mondays students get same teachers. We try to give them all 4 years so they get to know their students very well and work with students, if you will, on information that we need to share with them, emphasis for the week, and that's always every Monday. That's released, you know, for teachers and students, and they work through that. And sometimes it's themed stuff. Like this week we have, obviously, SAVE is something that we're really proud of here at Andrew High School. And so part of this week's theme is, you know, the SAVE information, students to understand what that means and so forth. So that's part of the advisory program. The other 4 days a week, students are afforded the ability to get interventions. And we really believe in student choice. So our students sign up for interventions to get extra help where they need it. During that time, they could sign up for, you know, with their English teacher on help with their essays, or math teachers for problems, or whether it be science, whatever the case may be, students get to sign up 4 days a week to get assistance. Students that need a little more help, sometimes we will sign them up to say, you need to go here because we feel like you need additional support based on how you're doing in that class. So just so you're aware, that's something that we provide every day, 4 days a week. And then on Mondays, they get the advisory time. And obviously Wednesdays are late start is what our weeks look like. Another academic support that we're really proud of is the center. And the center is offered during lunches. Again, you know, we believe in the power of student choice and autonomy to help themselves with regards to intervention. And students can sign up, you know, during their study hall for freshmen and sophomore students. They can sign up and get the help that they need from the center. There are adults in there, teachers from all subject areas that help out, in addition to peer-to-peer tutoring, which we feel is very powerful, students getting assistance from their peers. And that's during the lunches. That could be also during advisory time if students request additional help. And just like I explained with the T-Bowl time, what we call the advisory time, if we feel that students need mandated interventions, we will sign them up and make sure that they are getting it during those lunch times. So that's the academic areas of support. Obviously, you know, the main office staff are also here to support you know, parents and students. So feel free to reach out to us as well if you have any questions or concerns about any of the academic or social emotional supports that I just described. Off to Mr. Dalton.
Holy cow. We do a lot of support. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to hear it, even though I've been here so many years, it is so impressive always to hear about the different ways that we try to help kids reach their full potential as we go through here. Another way we do that is outside of the academic side of it is we really believe in social emotional help of kids, and we believe getting involved in either clubs, activities, sports is a great way for kids to build that self-esteem, learn teamwork, learn the power of persevering. We do it academically, but we also do it in these other settings. As you can see right now, we've got 71 clubs and activities, 30 athletic programs with 71 different teams when you bring in all the levels. It is just a great way for kids to get involved. Overall, most of our kids, over 80% of them, are involved in something. I'll be honest with you, our goal is to get kids involved in at least 2 things every year. All of the research shows that if they are involved, their grades are going to be going up, their self-esteem is going to be going up. In the morning, as parents, as Dr. Nolting pointed out, we all have kids about this age at our house. It's a lot easier to get kids to want to go to school if they are liking it on top of the academics, because I have this club, I have this activity, I have this sport after school, or sometimes it's before school, because if we want to get in for lifting, we want to do those things. We want to build that connection, not only to the school, but to all of their peers. What I'm going to do is in the chat, you're going to be able to see, I think that's the right one. That's a link to all of our activities. And I mentioned over 71 of them. And Ms. Altman mentioned SAVE. That's a perfect example of, even though with all of these activities, if there's something that your child says, hey, they got a lot, but I really have an interest in this. SAVE is something that's called one of our pilot clubs. Some kids came to us a couple years ago looking at the world going around us, and they said, we want to be a positive change. So Students Against Violence Everywhere was created. They got a couple of teachers to work with them on this, and now they're in what we call pilot stage. But the rest of these, as you can see, Dr. Nolting's going through, we've got drama, we've got all the plays, we've got student council. We have all of those competitive. We have speech, we have drama, we got group interpretation, Scholastic Bowl. We have athletically, as I'm sure you've all been watching, IHSA stuff. Even though a lot of our sports got moved, maybe a different session, our coaches are doing a tremendous job still building those relationships with kids, using contact days, because it's not just about what's happening on the field. It is about building that relationship with the kids as often as we can. And I know that our sponsors and our coaches are doing everything they can to reach out to them and still say, all right, how do we get you off that screen? How do I connect with you as a person, so that you know that aside from all the teachers and all the other supports that we talked about here, we have one more adult that's looking out for you. So when you have that bad day, even if it has nothing to do with, with the sport or the club or the activity, that adult cares about the kid individually. And once again, as kids feel that connection, they're more likely to want to come to school. They're more likely to be successful at school. So please, if your child's saying, oh, I'm not too sure, we're going to encourage everyone to at least try something. It's a great way to make new friends, meet different kids, and meet different adults who have that common interest.
All right, thank you. Last thing I'll just kind of talk to you through, and it's really a tool that I think is just a great kind of print it out, put it on the table. When you have discussions with your kids, it's the balance between talents and passion, or aptitude and interest. So what I always say is talk to your kid, and you probably know half of these things off the top of your head because you know your kid the best, right? So what is my kid talented in and what is my kid passionate about? And in the lower left-hand corner, if you have a kid with a low passion and a low talent at something, avoid it at all costs. Don't waste time in high school belaboring those areas or at least do it as least possible, right? If you go to the bottom right-hand corner and they have a high passion for something, but a low talent or aptitude for it, they just like to do it. That becomes something that can be a great hobby. I got a lot of kids that talk to me about, some of the best times that I have is about bass fishing club, or I took a ceramics class and I asked them, well, what are you going to do in the arts? They say, absolutely nothing. I'm not that good at it. I just love to do it. Great. Choose that as an opportunity. That sometimes energizes a kid's day just for that 45 to 50 minutes sitting at an art table taking a ceramics class. But it's not going to be something they want to really focus on for life after high school. In the upper left-hand corner, you might have a kid who has a high talent for something, but maybe not a high passion for it. It might be something they're good at in the future. I would challenge them to take an opportunity in our co-curricular world in particular to try it on for size. Sometimes you get that passion going, sometimes you don't. It could be something that they're interested in the future, but it may be something that if they're not going to be passionate about for the rest of their life, maybe it may be something that they want to shift away from, even though they're good at it. One of my favorite kids in one of my clubs, I won't name him by name, he is uber talented in math. But he wants to go into a physical science kind of field, actually a PT kind of field, because that's his passion, and that is a great thing to know. He's still taking our highest math classes that we could possibly offer, but he knows his future somewhere else. And that to me is a kid who's figured it out. And then you have the other area that has that passion and talent, and that's where I really hope that kids continue to try to work towards. Know what you're good at, know what your talent is, and know what your passion. The kids, no matter what that is, if they can find out what they're passionate about and what they're talented in, those are the kids that I know are going to be successful in life after high school, whatever that choice is. So as you go through that, understand that we don't just give that to you as a parent to say, here's your task for the next 4 years. We do that with you. And please understand the mindset of myself and Ms. Hoffman and Mr. Dalton and Mr. Nolan and all of our staff is we sincerely embrace there's a triangle here with our relationship with our parents, our students, and us. The kids know themselves and they know what they want to do with their life. You are the parent and you know your kid the best of any individual other than the kid themselves. And you have a vested interest in your kid's development. And we are pretty good at what we do. So we put those three things together and we try to make every decision that's in the best interest of the kid with all three of those perspectives in mind 100% of the time. There's going to be times that we don't necessarily agree 100%, and we'll get through those, right? If we listen to each other, if we keep working towards the goal, which is your kid and their success. But this is a passion project for me to be principal of Andrew High School. I think I can speak for Mr. Dalton and Ms. Hoffman that their day jobs are their passion projects. So we can tell you firsthand what happens when you find out what your passion and vocation is together. Final three thoughts, and like I said, we'll stick around and answer any and all questions you have. Best way to get ready for Andrew High School is to keep finishing strong and enjoying the 8th grade. Now, again, this year, that looks different. Totally get it. But we don't want kids in October and November thinking about being an Andrew Thibault because they're still being an 8th grade kid. I cross my fingers every day that our kids get some semblance of the experience that they signed up for this year. And I know that's challenging. But know that we hope that they finish strong in 8th grade and enjoy the 8th grade experience. There'll be plenty of time for getting ready for high school. There's no Thibault profile. As we said before, every kid's got a different plan and every kid's got a different path. Every kid's got a different avenue. I've always said we have about 550 freshmen coming to us next year. Every kid's got a different personality. Every kid's got a different goal in life. And every kid's got a different story. And we want to embrace that individuality. And the final thing, and I mean this sincerely, contact us at any and all times that you have a question. The worst thing we could do in this process is have you sit on a question that you don't have an answer to. So some of the names are folks here tonight are Mr. Nolan, like I said, who's usually here, but he's indisposed. Michelle View, Miss View is our new guidance director. Mr. Murphy is our head dean, as Ms. Hoffman said, the nicest guy in the building. And then Mr. McEwen is our athletic director. We all truly believe that you're not pestering us with any question. Email is probably the best way to reach us, but you're welcome to call if you have the need to want to call. But the last thing I would ever want a parent to do, 8th grade parent, freshman parent, senior parent, you name it, is to not have a question answered. So we will get back to you 24 hours or less, guaranteed. So saying that, you guys didn't have a lot of questions for us. I only got one question in the chat room. So we're going to stick around and answer questions that you may have. If we have done all of our due diligence in answering everything that could be on your mind, possibly, you are welcome to stay or go. It's up to you. because we have no more content to deliver, but we do want to make sure that we answer any and all questions that you might have for us tonight. The only question that I want to respond to is about MAP testing and placement. Here's the answer I'll give, and then I'm sure Ms. Othman will cringe when I say what I'm going to say. So the challenge for this year's 8th grade kids is our traditional criteria has been we ask the 8th grade teachers how they think that kid's doing, and then we take a look at their PSAT scores. The reality is that the PSAT scores aren't going to be available because we're not giving the test. And the 8th grade teachers are compromised because the way that we're going about school this year is so different. And I know as a recent parent of an 8th grade kid, this is going to be a hard year for even that regard. The MAP testing is certainly an option for us to look at. The challenge with that is you're probably talking about your winter 7th grade MAP scores as your most recent. So we're working on a system. What I'd encourage you to do as a parent is, especially once you get that placement letter, and if you don't agree with it, if you will, and you have information that you want to give to our division chairs and kind of say, listen, I think my kid's capable of this, and MAP scores are one of them, bring them. We understand the MAP scores. We don't use it religiously at our school, but we understand them. And if you think that could help paint the picture for us, we'll use them. We're not going to use them for every kid. We're not going to use them as a replacement for PSAT, but we're very open for you to provide us with those and say, listen, my kid's really talented at something. Here's some scores to defend what we're saying. Can we talk about a change? So I hope that made sense. If it didn't, put it in the chat. That made no sense, and I'll try to answer. Actually, then I'll make Ms. Othman answer because she's more clear about it than I could be. But I hope you understand that we're really looking at trying to be as holistic as possible with what we've got in front of us. So one of the questions, how do we ensure we are on the email distribution? So our goal would be that within the next week that we work with our tech folks to make sure that that they're there. So if you are a District 140 or District 146 parent, you should be automatically pulled into the system, assuming that they have your email. And our goal is that next week we are sending out that information about that open house via email. And if you don't get that, you'll get a phone call and we'll try to work out a better system, but that's our goal. If you are here and you're a private school parent, you're always welcome to contact me directly or email your email and maybe your phone number so you get on that call list to Ms. Bray at Bray, B-R-A-Y, at d230.org. So hopefully that'll correct itself sooner than later. And again, next week is when you should anticipate hearing back from us about open house. The brochure of all classes, Ms. Othman, you want to take that one real quick?
Yes, so Mr. Dalton put a link into as well for in the chat if anyone wants to take a look. But on the Andrew website as well as our district-wide website, one of the links we have under resources for Andrew is the course selection guide. So if you go back to resources under the Andrew website, we have the course selection guide, and that lists all the classes that we offer here at Andrew High School. Mr. Dalton also put in the link in the chat if you want to click it. It lists all the classes.
Awesome. Mr. Dalton, do you have a response to band? What's band doing this year and for potential prospective band students?
Yeah, I'll take two quick questions on there. The first one was about the recording. Yes, this entire presentation is being recorded and we will put it on the website tomorrow, just so you know that. And then secondly, about band, yes, we did hold band this year. There were no competitions throughout the area, the state, the region, anything. But we were able to still, even in this pandemic world, if you were outside and socially distanced, we were able to do that. And our band put on a fantastic space theme show this year where we followed all of the ISB guidelines where we had kids, you know, in less than 50, more than 30 feet apart, each group, and each kid was 6 feet apart. And they put on a great parent show this weekend. And we were able to actually bring in some clinicians for that show, a show similar to that the night before, where we also brought Stag over. So we were able to get some feedback from the U of I marching band director. and another professor of music. So we still were able to keep the music going, as they say, and it worked out nicely.
All right, Ms. Othman, tutoring question. What kind of tutoring opportunities do we have within the school?
So we have peer-to-peer tutoring availability offered during lunch times that we provide all students. We also have the center, which is a resource where students can get help. They can get tutoring by teachers or peer-to-peer. We also have that during advisory time. Students are also able to get help during that time from their teachers, from their actual teachers. It's 30 minutes, 4 days a week that they can get help on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. We definitely encourage students to sign up and make sure that they're getting the help that they need. If they prefer the student peer-to-peer tutoring, that is provided in the center during lunchtime. So our students, our juniors and seniors typically have 1 hour lunches. Our freshmen and sophomore have a study hall and a lunch typically, so we provide them the opportunity to break that time in half, have half the time for lunch, and then the other half to get tutoring. And the reason why we provide it during the school day is so that it's equitable and students aren't worried about trying to get it after school. Due to we want them to be involved, as Mr. Dalton said, we want them to be partaking in sports and activities, and therefore everybody gets an opportunity to get tutoring or get help during the day.
And then if I could add in one thing, thank you, Mrs. Grahams. Actually at the end of the season, our band did compete in one virtual competition where they were able to put all of the information they got back from that clinician, and they were able to record the session and submit it. So we were able to sneak one in at the end, and so they were excited about that.
Mr. Dalton, you want to hit up intramural sports as well? Do we offer it as a recreational activity?
We do have some open gym concepts and some things throughout the year where kids can come in and use the facilities along those lines. It's not a huge program right now. We really do encourage kids to get involved in our sports and in our activities, and get in that structured format to improve their skills.
Yeah, if I could jump into, we did try intramurals a few years ago, and we just couldn't get enough participation. However, I do want to point out that a majority of our sports are non-cut sports, and many of our coaches are very open, particularly sports like swim and cross-country track, for kids who don't have an experience or a background to try out. And we actually coexist in a conference that has multiple opportunities for kids to compete at JV and freshman levels and sophomore levels. So there are sports that are cut sports. I don't want to lead you to believe that none of our sports are cut, and many of our sports are highly competitive, but there are some sports that our coaches are very open to that. But unfortunately, intramural sports, we tried about 6, 7, 8 years ago to get up and running, and we couldn't sustain it. So I don't see any new questions, so I'm going to pause for a moment and see if anybody has a question that they have for us. I'm going through to see if I've missed any questions. I haven't. So there's still some folks left in the room. So again, if you have your questions answered and you have nothing left, you're welcome to check out of the room. If you have any questions, like I said, I got nothing. I got no life, so I'll stick around as long as you need me to. But won't want to keep you long. I don't know what's on at 8 o'clock tonight. I think last week we were up against. I think the debates or something, the town halls, that's what it was. So tonight, I'm not sure. It's Dancing with the Stars, season finale or something, but. Still no questions? I'll just keep talking randomly about various things and go from there. By the way, anybody that's willing to take a U of I Wisconsin football bet for Friday, I'm Wisconsin, so just shoot me an email if you want to take on a gentlemanly bet.
Nice.
So I'm pretty confident this year. Although we do have an Andrew Tebold on the Illinois team, so I am a little bit more sympathetic to the Illinois Fighting Illini.
Yes, we do.
So, thank you, Mr. Savage. I appreciate that. So, all right. So if the 24-ish of you are just out of the room getting a piece of dessert and have forgotten to check out, that's wonderful. We'll hang on a few more minutes, excuse me. I sincerely hope we get to meet in person in the very near future. You could probably hit the recording button, Mr.